to another video showing you some other of our pan lines here in the line of Expand-A-Pans. Today we just developed and we're real excited about the 550. 550 very well may be one of the most trapped, or is one of the most popular traps in America right now. I love the pause-a-trip pan right here. I love the cast iron jaws. Sets real easy, sets real flat. We're in the live market cavity trapping right now, so I love these cast iron jaws. You don't get nearly as many cuts. Here's what I don't particularly like about this pan, this trap. Look how small the pan is, little bitty, and so we were challenged to come up with an Expand-A-Pan for this. Now, if you'll look real close here, this pan is actually made onto the spring holder of this trap. The spring holder, the pan goes on first, and then it appears that the guys at Minnesota bend the spring holder around there. And so basically, for us to make a bolt-on or a rivet or a bolt-on pan like all the other Expand-A-Pans out there, then you're going to have to completely disassemble this trap. So we decided that we could make a weld-on pan for it because the trap is so popular. So this is what we came up with for our weld-on pan. And what we'll do is you'll notice that there's 3 holes inside this new Expand-A-Pan for the 550. What those holes are for are basically they have 2 functions. One of the functions is their lineup tools. And if you notice here, I'm going to point out a couple. Bear with me one second. I'm going to point out a couple of landmarks on this pan. If you zoom up real close to the pan here, you'll see that as they bend their pan down, they leave a little indentation mark right here, a little indentation mark right here. The other landmark on this pan is the very furthest point right here as the arc of this pan comes around. So those are the 2 landmarks that we're going to be looking for. Those are the 3 landmarks rather. Those 3 landmarks should coincide with these 3 holes right here. What we're going to do is lay this pan over. We're going to find the landmarks that we just talked about right there. We're going to clamp this on, and then we're going to spot weld it like that. Actually set the trap with the pan in the up position like that. In other words, if I was trapping and I set this trap, first thing I do is push this down until I heard the click of the pan. But for the purpose of welding this pan on, we found that it's easier to align the pan and also to weld it with this up. You got to be very careful here now. I want to show you just as far as safety goes. When I clamp this pan on with vice grips, I like to turn my vice grips upside down. When I clamp it and I push down, these vice grips should prevent the dog from firing right here. So just a word of safety to you guys when you get ready to weld these on. That's what we've learned works the best. Again, our 3 lineup holes, our top for our 2 indentions left in the pan, our bottom for the tip of the arc of the existing pan. We're going to weld this, lay this right over the pan. I've got, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I have the 2 indentions lined up with my 2 lineup holes, and I also see the arc at the very bottom right here, so I know that my positioning on that pan is right. I'm going to go ahead and clamp that. Once it's clamped, I can look and make sure that the edges, that the round part right here, guys, that mimics the existing round pan, which is the clearances for our levers to work. I want to make sure that that arc of the Expand-A-Pan, it matches exactly the same arc as the original trap pan itself. I want to look at that on both sides, and we certainly do match on both sides because our landmarks are exact. This pan is squared up and centered. Now I can take it over to the welder and I can put a spot weld on each of these 3 spots right here. We're going to take this over to the welder, guys, and show you the welding process right there. Real quick, what we'll do is I'll spot weld these three holes, which I told you were 2 functions. The first function is lineup tool. The second function is actual spot welding holes right there. Then I'll turn it upside down, and I'll usually put 2 spot welds on the bottom on the front side and 1 spot weld, and sometimes that can be hard to get a welder in there. I usually try to put at least 1 on the very back. It's not necessary to put 1 on the back because you do have the 2 on the dog side of the pan itself. So, all right, guys, we're going to go to the welder and we're going to spot weld this, and then we'll see what it looks like after we're done. Actually just ground straight to my vice grips. It's already got ground on the Expand-A-Pan and also on the original trap pan. I've got my lineup tools here like we did in the last segment, so the only thing we have to do is use our 3 holes for the second purpose that they're designed for, and that's to spot weld on. So I'm going to go ahead and spot weld these 3 right here, guys. If I can get my ground arc, there we go. Got 1. There's 2. There's 3. All right. Now I'm going to turn this back up. If you can see our spot welds right there. I'll turn this back up, and I'm going to get me a couple on the back side here. I'm just going to reach my welder in this hole. Got just a semi bead right there. Come to this other side. Alrighty, got a semi bead right there, and if I can reach back in here to the very back. And it's not going to take much back there. I do like to get a bead. Take this off. The weld's going to be just a tad bit hot here. But what I can do is use my pliers to go ahead and set. Flip that back down, and there we go. I do have just a little bit of bump on this spot weld right here. I can throw the trap and take a grinder and just knock that back off flat. These 2 actually came out okay. I'm going to grind this off, and we'll take one last close look at the pan and the tolerances on this. Be right back, guys. And all I did was pick the pan back up just like it was when we welded it, so that I could put my vice grips under here with no danger of the trap throwing where it wouldn't pinch my fingers or catch me. And then I ground off our spot welds. I try to hold this pan real still so everybody can zoom in on these. You should be able to see where our lineup tools / spot weld holes were. And you see how flat this is across here now. It's just as flat as the original pan. The light may be catching a little bit because it's shiny where I just ground that off. And then I also put a spot weld on the underside of this pan that coincides. You can probably see the burn marks, one right here, and I put 1 on each of these corners right here. You can probably see the discoloration in the metal where it's got hot when I welded it from the back. But that's it. Now I can pick my loose jaw up, set it like you normally would, listen for the click. There it is right there. Come back, and boy, that pan sure does sit flat. You can look real close at the tolerances here. This trap and the positrip system is really a tight fitting pan, so we were able to push our tolerances a little bit. What I mean by tolerances is what we have left around the outside of the jaw, the areas that we have to leave to make sure that the trap will continue to function. And that's what we came up with. This really works well. You can see we're covering almost every single square millimeter that we can possibly cover here. As an interesting note, the original surface area on the trap was around 5 square inches. The surface area of the Expand-A-Pan is in excess of 11 square inches. So we have more than doubled the surface area of this trap right now. No more coyote stepping right here, not firing the pan. If he steps here now, he's caught. So that is our 50 pans, guys. Let me find my block of wood that I used to throw my trap. I'm not seeing it right now, but I will throw this trap like this just to make sure that it functions properly and it fires. So guys, that's the 550 right there. We're excited about them. You see it sets super flat, super easy, super reliable. We're real proud of it. MB550 with an Expand-A-Pan. Go big or go home.